I haven't been managed to get other. Yeah, all right, so let's see what's on switching information. We were here. Well, it's understand. Yeah, and pretty sure this stuff back on me, get on. Well, see me, I'll get back. Sure, baby. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's less than the other thing pages. Yeah. I would say this, but that's why. I see that she posted about it, so let me see, being here at the sign that I can put, I'm just gonna go ahead and download it. So it's exactly. She first started. So here's what you see it. Hey, Kevin, that you have, put that button. Hey. I don't know that, baby. Here? Yeah. Oh, the touch? Oh. I gotta log in. God. I was gonna stick to it. So go down. Sorry. Backer. All three shots. Which one's in the Are you? Am I? Are you okay? Sorry. It's fixed. Because I can do the job in fixed. Yeah, as soon as you move this table to the rows, everybody will put it down. No one ever sits in front. Oh, Travis does have a. He's in the sway window, and their presentation is the other one.
I don't know what that means.
Right there.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the bottom. Never mind. You mean the actual. Yeah.
You understand it every day.
That happens to me quite a bit, actually.
Do you want me to man this for you, Travis, and scroll down for you while you're talking? Okay.
I'm gonna set out.
Win.
Yay! So, but you always have to run.
Yeah, we're not talking. Yeah, or anything else.
That's fun.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real School Wednesday Lunch and Learn. We got an exciting class today about home inspections with insurance home inspections. But first, we've got the Travis Ennis in the building from Adams Homes.
Hello.
We've heard of 4.99% interest rates. He just told me there's a 3.99 interest rate. So you guys may want to pay attention to this. Travis.
First off, what's your price? Let's say I'm about tomorrow. Ooh, imagine that. Want free lunch anytime you want to come out and see me.
You know how many people have asked about this too?
Yeah.
Well, same thing.
It's, I mean, good idea.
So one of my realtor friends, she has a daughter, and her daughter makes little bead stuff. So we did a 200 of the bead bracelets for the grand opening that we had. If you came out to the grand opening, not to our own home, but it was the biggest grand opening in Adams Homes history. So
Oh, yeah.
it was great. So if you all came out, thank you so much for coming out and supporting us. I only have 3 things I want to talk to you about today. You're probably tired of seeing my face in here, but guess what? We have homes to sell, right? So lots of homes. We have 2 houses now that are 3.99 for the first year, 4.99 years 2 through 30. Of course, that's through our preferred lender. FBC has now changed names and now called Sure, right? So that's who that lender's through. 2 houses, 3.99. Everything else, it's either 4.99, 6 months free, 15K or 10K plus 1,000. Every lender we have is a different incentive, so every house is different. Because some people know that better than others. There's constantly changing. So last week we had our second price increase in the neighborhood. And then 2 days later, we had another price increase for the new trim package that's going in. So we've had a little substantial price increase in the last week, but they're still coming out. It's amazing. They just keep walking out. Last month was our best month in my career at Adams and in my entire career in real estate. So people tell me the market's slowing down, they're lying to you because I'm not looking at it. Okay. And to put that into perspective, Keith and I talked in
It was at the grand opening.
and May, it was in May, and May was my worst month of my entire career. And then June was the best. So it's like this. It's crazy.
My photographer said yesterday, last month was the best month of his career, and he's been doing photography, real estate photography for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was like, well,
And for you guys, we're in Harnett County, right? 9 of the last 12 that have bought from me, guess where they came from?
Johnson County,
Wait.
County.
So they're from Cary and Apex. They can't afford it anymore. They've been priced out. It's too expensive. The taxes. They just reassessed Johnson, then they changed it, then they reassessed Wake. Now Wake they can do it every 2 years, not every 4 to 6. So people are starting to wake up. All right, 399s. 2 of the houses. It's lot 12 and 13. I don't know the address off the top of my head, but they're on there.
What price point are those?
Mid fours.
Mid fours.
Yeah. We still have houses in 300s. We still have ranches where we just released 6 more. I've got 11 more being released in the next month. So we're constantly rolling the houses out. Anything that started, June, July now, July, August, December, anything that starts this month should close by the end of the year. So if we have somebody, we have stuff in progression every month. We got more that are being released. So just come on out and ask. If you want to come out and take a tour of the neighborhood, we have to do that with you. If you want to come out and have lunch or bracelets. We got more bracelets if you want some. Whatever you guys need, we're here for you. We do some sponsorships everywhere we can. You need anything, just come out. Oh, one more thing. What's them on the bottom left of that flyer? What's that number say? 3%. Still pay you, always have 3%. I do the paperwork for you. So you can ask him. It's pretty easy peasy, 1, 2, 3 easy process. And if you bring me your buyer, I'll take him from there and I'll run it for you. Okay. So we got some houses to sell. If you need anything, let me know. Any questions, let me know. This is our sway link, just real quick, 2 minutes. It's all changing because we're rebranding everything for myself next month. This is being incorporated onto a website, and we're going to start doing the social media hooks to pull them in. So the company that's doing this has promised us about 20 leads a month. Anyway, it goes to who we are, what we're close to. When you get to here, if you click this button here, it enlarges the map. This is the most current map. It updates as things progress. It's in real time. So if it's a red dot, it's sold. If it's a green dot, it's pre-sale available. And if it's yellow, it's already in the pipeline.
Are these the 2 magic homes here,
Yes.
12 and 13?
13.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get some more information from you on that. I'll put it on my socials.
Yeah. So anyway, also, just so you know, scroll down a little bit. Oh. So close here and scroll down.
Close?
No, you're good.
Oh, is it scroll down?
Yeah, scroll down. So go to here. This is everything that you can make money on. Take that amount, the total times 3%, that's your commission, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses right now. 5, 6, 7. Almost $4 million in sales right there. You can go make a paycheck in 30 days. The 30-day close. So we got the money if you want it. You just gotta come get it. All right. Any other questions? All right, enjoy your day, guys. Appreciate you. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, get out there and get some 3% commissions and 4.99 interest rates for your buyers. And Travis, always excited to have you. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Now for the main event, John Myers with Assurance Home Inspection. John, come on up. And you have
The other one, guys. So you can close way.
that's perfect. Perfect. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I see a couple of familiar faces. I think I've met a couple of you in the past, so nice to see you again. We've met before. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about a couple of things today. But
but the feature of this class will be the seller secret. So let me ask if you guys do you tend to do more work on the buyer side, seller side? I know some people like to specialize. Maybe both buyer side, yeah, that's okay. We're going to talk about Spire. We'll talk about Spire stuff too. But yeah, let's just get right into it. At any point today, if you have any questions at all, stop me, ask me. Otherwise, I have a tendency to ramble on. So just let me know. It's not going to hurt my feelings. You don't even have to raise your hand if you don't like it. But so at Assurance Home Inspections, we are, bringing our core values up to the front now. We just want to kind of put in front of everyone, this is who we are, and what we train our team on. These core values, especially. You guys, if you sold a home before, you've had a home inspection before, hopefully not, but you may have had an experience where somebody comes out of the crawl space and they're covered in spider webs, and then they tell you all these horrifying things about the house, and it can be that it's jarring for your buyers. It can be an upsetting experience, and that's just not what a home inspection should be. So all of our guys, we're very intentional about training, how to talk to you and your clients. We're here just to provide data, that it's not good or bad. It just is, and we can provide a little guidance, on what to do. But that's what we're giving you. We're not going to tell you. You guys probably know this, but we can't tell you if to buy the house or not. That's not up to us. You guys know that every buyer's different. Expectations are always different. So we're keeping that in the back of our minds. And this is the kind of person we're bringing on to our team. If you're not already familiar, we offer all of this in-house except for septic inspections. And that's TBD. That's we're working on bringing that in house. In fact, we got a couple of guys who are licensed to do those inspections. We just have a couple more steps to take. But everything else, we're almost a one-stop shop for all of your real estate needs. So don't hesitate to reach out if you ever have questions about any of that stuff. We try and hire so that we have next day availability. So we know that real estate can move quickly, and in home inspections, a lot of times it's difficult to get on people's schedule. We've got a good sized team. Try and get you on the schedule the very next day. Occasionally we can get you on the same day even. So if you're ever curious, just let us know. Give us a call. We'll try and get you in on the schedule. If you ever, I'll let you look at that and think about that for a moment. But while we're talking about scheduling, if you ever end up working with someone at Assurance and you really like the guy that you worked with, let us know. You can call and schedule or schedule online, but you can request members of our team also. So I know that we know that real estate agents you like to have your guy, right? You like to have you know who's coming out of the crawl space. You know what they're going to say or how they're going to react or how they're going to present certain information. There's a little bit of variance, on how that information gets presented on the team. So if you find someone that you like working with, request them, let them know, and we'll do our very best to get them on your schedule during your inspection. So now that you've had a moment to look at this, this is just a couple of silly things. Couple of toilets, yeah, just some ideas for those new build homes that you guys are going to be selling here in a second. But yeah, we saw one of our guys found an actual throne, a little while ago. We had your way, and then this one here, I actually took that was an inspection I did a while ago, and I just thought it was. I was trying to wrap my head around what's the point, because this is you only have two toilets if you're planning on two people being there at the same time, right? So it's just a real odd situation, but yeah, just a little funny, kind of some of the stuff you'll see. Are you guys familiar with sewer scopes? Have you ever had a sewer scope done? Yeah. How'd it go?
It went okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and just, I don't know if you guys are aware, they just changed our documents for North Carolina Real Estate Commission.
Yeah, okay.
And on our professional services disclosure, instead of just septic inspection was one of the listed things, it now says septic/sewer. So you're probably gonna get a whole lot more sewer scope, because as the public becomes more aware and they're going through these documents with their buyers, what is sewer inspection? Well, that's, so you're going to get more requests for that. I have a feeling, just because they added that to our professional services.
Good. I'm excited to hear that. This is one of those things that You guys know this, septic's the same way. Stuff that's underground, is tricky because it's expensive to deal with. And you can't see it, you don't know that anything's going on until it's too late, until you have a backup in your house or something like that. These sewer scopes, we talk about them in just about every class that we do because we really think they are that important. This is just kind of giving you an idea of what it looks like, the mechanics of a sewer scope. But really, all it is you're running a camera down that main waistline of the house, and we just go as far as we can. That might be to the septic tank or to the city sewer, depending on what your water features are there. But yeah, we're kind of, this diagram shows you a good example of like what something that's really common is just root intrusion. You've probably heard about roots getting in those pipes, working away, and then waste. I know some of you guys grab some food, so I'll be delicate, but solid waste, toilet papers, and that stuff gets stuck on those roots, and that's where you get those backups. And there's a number of things that you can that can happen on these sewer scopes. So, good example of roots getting in, foreign objects. If kids lived in the house, you'd be surprised at some of the toys that we find, people are drains, or dish towels, hand towels. That's a surprisingly common, that stuff gets flushed down the toilet.
Inspector Knopfhoff just said he's seen a lot in new construction where there's
Yeah.
heavy equipment going over the front yard and not realizing it.
Oh, before we get into this, is everyone okay to look at this? This one's not especially nasty, but it is a sewer scope. Here, I'll show you this since this is what you're talking about. So this is a new construction sewer scope, brand new house, never been lived in. And you got this big old crack right here. This stuff does happen, and what's going on, it's not nefarious. These are mistakes. What happens is these pipes will get buried if they're not, if the dirt underneath the pipe isn't compacted correctly, and then a piece of equipment drives over it, a truck, have to be a big lawnmower, but they've got some big, heavy duty stuff out there. But it's typically, it's a truck full of supplies, backs over your sewer line, that soil compacts, and then you get these cracks in your line. And what's nerve wracking about this is this will work fine for a long time. You can get away with this for some time before it becomes an issue. And then you discover 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the line that there's a cracked pipe. And then the builder is not nefarious. It's just they're outside of that warranty period. They're not responsible for this stuff anymore. So our clients are left, holding the bag, going, now what? So this stuff does happen in new construction. It's something to be aware of. You'll also see this is unfortunately, pretty common in new construction is that these bathtubs especially end up being kind of a makeshift trash can. This is frustrating to see, but what happens is, you can see you've got your drain down here and little bits of this plaster, drywall, junk, whatever that stuff's falling down the drain. And again, when you just move into the house, you can get away with this for a while. And then all it takes is that little piece of plastic to get, stuck on a joint or stuck on a crack. It gets stuck in the pipe just the wrong way, and then you've got it back up all of a sudden. So the sewer scopes, I'll let you guys sit through this. Well, like I said, it's not too gross. I just want to give you an idea of kind of what it's like. That's a rag. That's what I was saying. That's a hand towel. Right here on the bottom, bottom of the pipe. But yeah, definitely. I mean, too big to be going down any drain in the house. How it got there, it's anybody's guess. I mean, surely it's from, like I said.
So and if you share, like, ever have a toilet bowl in your house, more than likely the plumber is gonna put a rat in that bowl. So the smell won't come out, and sometimes they forget to pull them back out, and that's why they get in the pipes and goes. So it's
Yeah. Again, just honest mistakes, So yeah, these sewer scopes, they're a big deal. Like I said, I'm glad that the public is becoming more aware of them. And just to clarify, because we get this question all the time, a sewer scope is different from a septic inspection. A septic inspection would involve actually digging up the tank, looking inside of that tank, locating drain field. That's kind of its own. Yeah, like I said, you have to have a license to do just that. sewer scope is that your main waistline in the house. So from the house to the street or the septic tank. So kind of that middle ground of responsibility. It's still the homeowner's responsibility there. So questions, concerns about any sewer scope stuff? All right, easy enough. So like I said, today we're talking about kind of the seller side of things. But I'll dip into the buyer side also, because I know that stuff relevant too. So you have probably had a home inspection before that's been limited in some capacity. What we're going to be talking about today is how do you as the agent and the buyer or the seller rather limit those limitations, right? So a lot of these things are just how do you prep a house to be inspected by a home inspector? So here's a few, just flips. This stuff is pretty self-explanatory, but the idea is we want the house ready to be inspected, and a lot of times that also makes it a little easier to sell as well. So first, on the exterior side, just dealing with landscaping. So an easy one is trimming bushes, cutting back plants. One of the things that can limit your home inspection is if trees. So you've probably been to a house where the bushes are you can ride up on the house and you can't get back. You can't reach the hose bib because it's covered up with bushes and everything. A lot of our inspectors, this is what we train them on is we can get back there and our guys do. They'll wiggle through these bushes. But if you had to inspect this wall, if you can take a step back and look at it, that's a great inspection. You can see everything you need to see from a few feet away, right? But if I have to deal with some bushes, and I'm trying to, not get poked in the back, and I'm dealing with the bugs and the critters, I can still see a lot of this wall, but this is not as good as this, right? So keeping that, having that clearance, having that ability to actually view the property from good, safe angles, that has a huge impact on your inspection. Plus, just for homeowners in general, we'd say keep those bushes back because you don't want that touching your house anyways. That'll can wear on your siding. It gives pests an opportunity to dodge pest treatment and get in the house. So generally a good idea to keep that stuff trimmed back. Gutters, gutters are like, if there's something I report on at every home inspection I've ever been to, it's gutters. These, and I'm oftentimes telling, especially first time home buyers, if you only take care of one thing at this house, the gutters gotta be it. Having clean, functional gutters is the most impactful thing you can do as a homeowner to protect the foundation of your home. So what I mean by that is, if your gutters are full of junk, full of leaves, it's going to overflow those gutters. It might even skip the gutters entirely, and it's just going to go off your roof and straight onto the ground. The whole point of the gutters, the water drainage systems, take that water and get it as far away from the house as you can. So when those aren't functioning, you've got these great big flat surfaces on top of your house, your roof. It's catching all that water, and then it's directing it right next to your foundation wall, and the soil will get soft. The foundation will sink and shift. That's when you start to get those little cracks in the walls and some cracking in your brick veneer. And then you have the conversation where your inspector comes out and goes, oh well, you got some cracking. We're not positive what's causing it. Now you got to talk to an engineer. Yeah. If the gutters are clean and they stay clean, I'm telling you, like I said, it's the number one thing. It's also going to be the first thing that engineers ask you when, if you're consulting with an engineer, they're going to say, what's the condition of your gutters? And if they're not clean, you should have them clean and make sure that they're, sloped properly and functioning correctly. So that's a low hanging fruit for prepping a house, is getting those gutters cleaned up. Siding, driveway, and grading. So a lot of this stuff, the siding painting, like painting caulk always feels like it's a silly thing to talk about. But again, in similar vein with the gutters, like preventing moisture from entering the house is like that's homeownership 101. So paint, surprisingly, like that is the way to protect a lot of siding and trim and everything. It literally provides a barrier, between the outside world and whatever you just painted. So many times, like on brick, I wouldn't sweat if it was painted or not. But on wood siding, I would say like, yeah, it needs to have some kind of either paint or treatment, some kind of protection. Even aluminum, like aluminum siding and trim. If you ever see that paint peeling off, you're just asking for moisture damage and moisture penetration there. So little things like that. The driveway, walkways, and cracks. These are little things that, like I said, in a lived-in home, 20, 30, 40 years old or longer, these are things you're going to see at every house. These little things are going to show up in your inspection. It's the same stuff. It's just about getting water away from the house, preventing water from getting in those driveway cracks and making those cracks bigger, catching these things before they become a big problem. Questions about exterior stuff? Well, sorry, let me talk about the grading real quick. So grading, you don't have to remember this. I'm not going to quiz you, but what the inspectors are looking for, just so you have this in the back of your head, is we want the slope of the grade. So the dirt outside your house should slope 6 inches over 10 feet away from the foundation. So the idea again being that when water hits that grade, you want it running away from the house. So if you're ever at a house and you're like, man, I've got a slope going towards the house. That can happen. You can do that, and there's ways to do that. But there should be a method of getting water away from the house. Yeah. If not, you can just about guarantee when you get into that crawl space, or if it's a slab, when you're looking at the foundation of the home, there's going to be some water damage in that area next to that.
It's good to remember that too, because you're like a genius from your clients.
Oh my gosh.
One thing, did you know that this is supposed to grade at 6 inches drop? And they're just looking at you like you're just everything.
Oh yeah. Or it's another great trick is to go, I bet your home inspector is going to say something. Yeah, he's going to find some damage right through here, and they will. It's I joke with our new guys that it's like after a while you can pull into the driveway and you already know, so just by looking at the house you already know where all the defects are going to be.
Yep.
That's one of those things you'll know where the water damage is in a pretty quick lap around the house. Attics and crawl spaces. So this, talking to our inspectors, this is where we make our money. These are the spaces that nobody wants to get in the attic, nobody wants to get in the crawl spaces. Gosh, especially those crawl spaces. And it is unfortunately like one of the more common limitations in a home inspection. So what I mean by that is, everybody's seen the attics that are full of your Christmas decorations. Or crawl spaces that have a bunch of storage. People throw stuff down there and then forget about it. So we have to be careful, and you guys know this. We have to be careful when the home inspectors are in the house. Your buyers aren't the owners. We're not the owner. Somebody else owns the house. We have to be careful about how we navigate and what we touch and can't touch and everything. So access is a huge deal. In the attics, it can be as simple as just taking some of those boxes and throw them in a closet, putting them in the garage, in a shed, somewhere where they're, safe, obviously, but that allows the inspector to navigate those areas safely and not have to make the decision. We joke about this, but these are all, based on experience. Like if the decision you have to make is like, do I move the family heirloom to check the furnace, we're not touching the heirloom, things will break. And that's a very difficult conversation to have with the sellers. So, access. Crawl space is the same thing. If there's tons of storage down there, or lots of like building materials, we get a lot of that. Just taking that stuff out of the crawl space, so that it can be accessed easily. This is again, pretty simple stuff. You guys have questions, buyers or seller side, questions about crawl spaces or attics? Because like I said, I know that this is oftentimes the most scary part of the inspection for the buyers. This is where, like I said, this is where we make our money, and where deals are made. Is in the United States. Questions about that? Concerns? Good deal. We may come back to some of that, but I want to be aware of our time here. So plumbing. This is another, we're going to talk about all your major systems here today, but plumbing is a critical one. You have maybe had an inspection where, maybe your inspector called you and you're like, oh, I'm at the house, I've been working, but there's no water here, water's not turned on, or there's not water at certain fixtures and not others. That's fine. So our guys can deal with that. We have the in most cases, we have the tools needed to cut water on where we need to turn it on. We can do that. But there's hurdles to doing that. Sometimes if we have to turn it on at the city side, the first question we need to ask ourselves is why is this turned off? Now, if it's just turned off because, because it's a vacant house and nobody's living there, no big deal. We can turn that on, get everything tested. If it's turned off because there's a leak, then we have to be super careful. And I'll tell you a quick story. I did an inspection one time where it was an older house, it was a big house. I mean, this was probably, I don't know, 3,000 square feet. Like 70s era house. Water was turned off when I got there. I called the listing agent and just I said, hey, I can see the water's turned off here at the road and turn that on. Do you know of any reason why the water's turned off? And she said, there was a reason. That's something to do with the toilet, but I'm pretty sure, you can turn it on and it should be all right. And so I was like, great. So fortunately, that particular day I had someone training with me, so there was another inspector on site. And I was telling him, like, okay, anytime you turn the water on, the very first thing you got to do is check all of your plumbing, every single plumbing fixture. You got to put eyes on it, and you got to make sure that that you don't have water running somewhere. I'm not even talking leaks. I just mean, when people are showing the houses and they're turning knobs and the water's not on, they go, "Oh, you turn something on and you might not know." So when they go turn the water on, your shower might be shooting out into the bathroom, right, or something like that. So I'm upstairs, doing a quick check on all of our plumbing fixtures. And then Randy, he's in the basement. And he's goes, John, gotta turn the water back off. And it's because there was a toilet down there that won't get into all the technical details, but it was there was water was flowing back into the toilet because there was a blockage in the line. And it was just filling up, overflowing, and then flushing and trying to eject. And then the water would come back down and it was filling up and overflowing. And I mean, in a matter of, this was like 3 minutes, we have water all over the ground. It's a big problem. And I was kicking myself, not because, I mean, we did everything right. We asked for permission, we did all the thing, but I was like, man, how did they not remember that? How do you not know that the reason that this is turned off is because there's, the toilet is overflowing into the basement, so things like that. If you're on the seller side of things, take that note. Remember that because you might get calls about it. We'll call you and ask about why is water shut on. But like I said, if it's we're always going to try and this on the front end of things, we're going to ask you to make sure that they're just check if the fixtures are running. And that's another easy thing to do is isolate the hot and cold. Like make sure you're actually getting hot and cold water out of each fixture. These ensuring proper drainage and the supply lines and drain lines are secured and supported. That's an easy I know most people don't like to get in the crawl spaces, but it is handy to like a drive-by inspection of the crawl space. If you get comfortable just opening that door and taking a peek in there, you can learn a lot real quick about the house. And one of the things you can keep an eye out for is if your water supply lines are doing this, that's no good. You don't want that. They should be secured up to the house. Don't want them laying on the ground. On some older houses, you might see that and it might be okay. But newer stuff, really try and get it up and off the ground as quickly as possible as far as plumbing entering or leaving the home. Your drain lines, again, just as a quick look, the larger pipes in the crawl space, you just want them all moving in the same direction. And so what I mean is like you want them all sloped in the same direction. If you've got pipes doing this, you already know there's going to be drainage problems in the house. So simple things like that. Are your drains all kind of moving in the right direction? Are your supply lines up off the ground, properly secured? Again, not that you would get in the crawl space, but if you wanted to, could you safely do that? That would be a good sort of indicator there. The water heater, is it rusted? What does it sound like? This is kind of an interesting one. If you run some hot water, and you can get the hot water to actually turn on, you can learn a lot just by listening to it. It's popping and crackling. That's usually an indication of some issues going on with the water heater. And and I always like to tell people, you guys are in so many houses that you will have the opportunity to do this. But it's a really interesting experiment. Over time, a lot of our inspectors can, we say, calibrate your hand. You'll know when you're touching a 120-degree water, or if it's more or less. So if you have a little thermometer, you might take it with you and just get an idea of what 120 feels like. And you'll know, when you run your hand under a sink, and it doesn't get hot enough, that would be something, I might go like, oh, let me go take a look at this water heater. Is the temperature just turned down, or is it really old? Is it busted? Is it leaking? Is there something going on? The opposite would be true too. If it's so hot that you can't keep your hand under there, or you're in scalding territory, go take a look at that water heater. You might be having some issues there also. This TPRV, that's kind of what I was getting at. So TPRV stands for temperature pressure relief valve. You should write that one down. I might ask you about that one later. But as the name would suggest, if the temperature or pressure is too high in your water heater, that valve is going to discharge. So you'll see it. It's usually it looks like a little, I don't know, like a little pipe sticking out the side of the water heater. It'll be warm to the touch. You can touch it, but you don't want to turn anything on or off. It'll be warm to the touch. If that's ever dripping water, that's a pretty instant, like, call a plumber. Hopefully all it is the valve needs to be replaced. But it can sometimes mean there's a bigger issue going on. Electrical systems. This could be another tough one. So really, the big story here is access. There's nothing more frustrating in the world than you paid to have this home inspection done, and and your main panel is behind a refrigerator in the garage, and it can't be accessed or something. Or people cover up their main panels all the time because they're unsightly. Just not. Access. Outlets and switches. It's unstable. But yeah, outlets and switches, this is a real easy, like, running through the house and flipping these switches on and off. If you don't know what they do, can you guess what they do? I know you guys have been to a house where there's, several switches and a bank of switches here, and two of them control lights, and the rest, nobody knows what they do. You'll see this a lot in new construction, actually. And in new construction, I'm encouraged by it. In older houses, it always makes me wonder a little bit. But in new construction houses, a lot of times what they're doing is they're running circuits, through your ceilings and through the wall, in case you ever want to put that ceiling fan in, or in case you want to put sconces on either side of your
Last time this with the fan, I mean, lights.
Yes, right. It would be for like a bedside. Now without a tester, could you figure out, could you guess, which outlets are switched and which aren't? Yeah, it's a yeah, and this is a little bit of this would be another good one when you're walking your buyers through the house. You can show them this, and about half the time it'll look really impressive. But sometimes, so this is a good example. I mean, everybody knows what an outlet looks like. The two slots, the brown slot looks like a little face. If they're upside down, a lot of times that's the electrician going wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This outlet is switched. They'll actually flip it upside down so that there's some kind of visual indication of I don't know what I did. I just. There we go. But yeah, having one of those little testers is super handy. You know, they're real small, easy to carry around. GFCI outlets. This is another really important one. This and gosh, every 3 or 4 years the code gets changed up. The building residential code. And we're pretty darn close to like basically every all your electrical circuits could be protected in some way. GFCI stands for ground fault circuit interrupter. They also have AFCI breakers, arc fault circuit interrupters. So they're just different kinds of protection for your electrical circuits. You've probably seen these in your bathrooms, kitchen, the outlets with the buttons on them. Sometimes they'll pop because you're running the blender and the toaster and the air fryer. You got too many things going, those outlets will pop. So it's just a protection and overcurrent protection, another layer of protection. Older houses are going to be missing these occasionally because that just wasn't the code back then. So keeping an eye out for those things and anticipating as the seller, like, okay, they're probably going to say something about, this is going to require some GFCI protection, and you can make some decisions about how to deal with that. But that same outlet tester, those little $10, $20 testers, all come with there's a button that you can press to check whether or not those outlets are functional. So again, just good little tool to have, something good to check, because replacing those, like having your guy replace them before we show up is oftentimes cheaper than trying to deal with, negotiating on it after the fact. Replacing those outlets is no big deal. That's a quick and easy job for an electrician or a well-meaning uncle, somebody who knows what they're doing. Questions about any electrical stuff? All right. It's because I'm such a good teacher.
Yeah.
There's just not that many questions. So heating and cooling. This one, it's just as far as testing before your inspector shows up, really does the house get cold when you want it to get cold, and does it get hot when you want it to get hot? With an asterisk. So without getting too far into the weeds here, you guys, I'm sure, have heard of like heat pumps and furnaces. And another day in another class, we'll spend a whole hour talking about just that, the difference between the two, advantages and disadvantages. For us today, the important bit to know is that certain times of the year, you can only test certain functions of heat pumps. Now, cooling so let's talk about central air and furnaces first. So regular, just kind of typical air conditioning and furnaces. You can test those year round. When it's real cold outside, we would say so less than 65 degrees outside. The temperatures that you get at your registers can be a little misleading because even if the temperature or even if your air conditioning is not working, if it's 40 degrees outside, the air that's flowing through your house is going to be 40 degrees. It's going to look like the air conditioning is working, even if it's not. And we'll talk about that on site, as your inspector, we would talk about that. So it's similar with a heat pump. Heat pumps, the cooling when it's cold outside is going to be really difficult to do, tough to observe. The heating when it's really hot outside, it can actually, it's not like it's dangerous. It's not like you're going to blow your system up, but you can cause damage to your system by running the heat when it's above 65 degrees. So you'll know, so it's just something to be aware of. If you're selling a house in the summertime and it's got a heat pump, probably don't want to run the regular heat. Do you guys know what emergency heat is, or it's auxiliary heat? So for some of you who don't know, that's your emergency heat and auxiliary heat are the same thing. Those can be used interchangeably. That is usually, not always, usually that's electric heat that is to assist the regular heat function of your heat pump. I can see some of you just glazed over, and so we're going to try not to dwell on this. All I want to let you know is that usually, so on your thermostat, a lot of times there's another switch that says emergency heat or auxiliary heat. You can test that any time of year. If it's 100 degrees outside, you can still test the emergency heat, and you should get hot air. The regular heat, I wouldn't test when it's hot outside. But anyways, like I said, keep it high level. Does it get hot when you want it to get hot? Does it get cold when you want it to get cold? Does the thermostat have batteries in it? That's something we run into all the time, and most of our guys carry batteries with them. But it might not be a bad idea to keep a couple extra batteries in your car too. This is also it's a silly limitation, when we show up to a house and the thermostat, the AC and the heat might work, but if the thermostat doesn't work, we'll never know, because we just can't run it. So having a couple extra batteries, replacing air filters is really easy. You'd also be amazed at the performance impacts that air filters have on your heating and air. Every HVAC guy ever is going to tell you the number, when you have an issue with your air conditioning and they come out and whatever they fix, if you ask them like, what do I do to prevent this next time? 9 times out of 10, the answer is change your filter. Not changing your filter can cause so many different problems. So staying on top of that, regularly swapping those filters out, will save you a whole lot of headache. It'll also save you a comment in your home inspections. And then making sure vents are clean, unobstructed. So that might be your registers on the floor, registers in the ceiling. Making sure that those are that air can actually come out of them. That can also impact the performance of your HVAC. Kitchen. This is an interesting one. You guys probably know more about this than I do, but for some reason the kitchen is it's like the ultimate gathering place. Everybody. And it might be a perceived value thing. I don't know. Kitchens and bathrooms can really take a house to the next level. So on the seller side of things, like making sure these things are clean, that the joint, anywhere you have a joint near a sink, that's caulked and it's not cracked and can allow water back in there. That's easy things to fix. Make sure that these are working. Appliances I know are another sticking point for buyers because they're not expensive, and we're talking hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars at a time, over some pretty simple things to check out. So again, no mystery here, but yeah, does your oven work? Does the range work? Does the dishwasher fill with water and drain? That's a really important one. So a lot of times they'll let me ask you this. Has anyone ever cleaned the filter in their dishwasher? Even one time? You have? Yeah. Most people don't know that there's a filter in your dishwasher at all. I didn't know until mine was clogged and I almost flooded my kitchen. But this is like a super simple maintenance item for a seller. Take care of that beforehand. Because when you move out of a house, especially if it sits vacant for a little bit, your plumbing plumbing will dry up. Joints have a tendency to crack. Solid become more solid, if that makes sense. So all that, the nasty gunk and stuff in those filters and drains, while they stay wet all the time, if you're washing your dishes, a couple times a week, that stuff it'll stay functional, and then when it dries out, everything gets rigid, and then we show up and now we're saying, oh, your dishwasher doesn't work. So anyways, cleaning those filters, making sure that everything's functioning, is an easy one. And then cabinets and drawers, same thing. Again, no mystery here. Making sure that they're functional, they work like they ought to. One of the silly ones we see all the time. See this in a fair amount of new construction too. Is can the drawer actually open all the way? Is it not? An innocent, honest mistake that we see a lot is people will, again, perceive value of the kitchen. Everybody wants to upgrade the kitchen and the bathrooms, and they'll put these nice new hardware on your cabinet doors. And your cabinet here, now the hardware sticks out and you can't open a drawer because your nice new hardware now obstructs sort of the function of some of the other cabinets, drawers. Really just getting in the habit of actually opening and closing all this stuff saves a lot of headache down. Questions about kitchen or appliance stuff. Another good one is like the disposer. That's a real common. Those things are dirty, or especially if the house has been renovated. Construction debris, kind of like that picture we saw early on. Construction debris lands in those kitchen sinks all the time. And when you turn that food disposer on, it'll rattle and you'll hear stuff clanking around in there. anyways, easy stuff to deal with. Bathroom. So same thing. Similar to the kitchen, these are your high moisture areas, areas of high humidity. These are just important parts of the inspection. And just in general, just a higher rate of defects and problems that you can experience because there's more water in the area, right? You can have leaks. If ventilation isn't working in the bathroom, everybody's been in that bathroom where you can start to see the fungal growth. We all know that it's mold. But your inspector's not going to call it mold because we can't call it mold. But a lot of times that's an indication that there's not proper ventilation in that space. You see that stuff in bathrooms and kitchens a lot. But loose toilets is another one. If you're brave enough to put your hands on the toilets, and just give them a little, don't have to be a bodybuilder, just give it a little shake. If it moves at all, it's a loose toilet. You'll know if you start checking it out. You'll know if it moves at all. It's a problem. That is one of the easiest spots in the house for you to develop a leak. If you can imagine, under your toilet, there's usually like a flexible seal. Sometimes it's wax, sometimes. But that seal, if you're not seated, if it's not real sturdy, over time, every time you get up, you can get up and off that toilet. The toilet's gonna rock back and forth. I mean, just a little bit at a time, and then one day you got a leak and you don't know about it because it's going into your crawl space. Who goes into their crawl space? So loose toilets, definitely, easy thing to take care of, important thing to take care of. Yeah, the bathrooms and kitchens, it's all about moisture mitigation. It's just like your roof and gutters. Doors and windows. So again, a little silly, but yeah, making sure that they actually open and close. This, a lot of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Are they busted? Are they broken? Are they dinged up? These are easy things to fix before the buyers ever show up. Maybe a more important note here is if you're noticing some functional issues with your windows and doors, pay attention to your foundation in that area. That doors that rub the floor or get stuck in the frames can sometimes indicate that your foundation has settled unevenly. So if you can, imagine a door frame, it's, straight up and down, right? And straight across the top. If our foundation has slipped, towards the back of this building, that frame might do this. And now our doors, you'll have a gap at the top, and the door will be scraping the floor because it gets dragged down, with our foundation. So I can see some of you guys are going, oh shoot, I've got this in my house right now. That's I've got one in my house right now. But it can be an indication of more serious things, more than just like, oh, the doors look weird. So something to pay attention to. Windows are exactly the same way. If you have some windows that are just, it's all you can do to get them open and closed. They're so tight in the frames. But windows on the other side of the house working just fine. Check the foundation in that area. Check your gutters in that area. See what the condition of your gutters are and if they're draining properly. Some safety stuff. You guys know about this one: smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. That's something that North Carolina it demands that we report on, and we should report on it. These are easy things to take care of, and they have real life safety implications. So making sure that batteries are replaced, or if it's a hardwired system. A lot of these detectors have lifespans. So 7-10 years. There are some. We have a couple of firefighters on the team, and I didn't know this until talking to them about it. But a lot of times, people consider that your fire department will consider your smoke detectors consumable, as in if they ever go off as the result of smoke, they're done. Those guys will tell you to replace it now. The sensor has been affected, so go ahead and replace it. Like I said, that's a little hearsay. I may be giving you some misinformation there, but that's, like I said, that's what I've heard from firefighters. Again, seller side of things, like these are easy things. Just swap them. Make it new so that there's no question at all about, are these things safe or unsafe. Carbon monoxide detectors, they're not always required, but generally recommended. If there's fuel burning appliances at all, furnace, gas stove, stuff like that, little fireplaces, required, then you do have to have them. Let's see, our foundation, I think this is our last spot. So foundation, we've talked about this a little bit. The foundation can be tough, but the quick thing to check for is water around the foundation. So stretch like we've had recently where we've had, I mean, just a ton of rain. It is a great time to get a home inspection or go take your clients and go and check the place out. I told my brother bought a house recently and I was like, man, I was real deal, like take an umbrella with you and go stand outside the house while it's raining like this. Because you'll know there's no question about where the water's going then. You can really see, are the gutters working? Is the grading working properly? Are you getting big pools of water, around your house? Definitely a big deal for your foundation. When it's dry, because most of the year is dry, most home inspections that we do are in, fortunately, pretty sunny weather. So are there cracks in your foundation? Tight hairline cracking, I would say, it may be something to keep an eye on. If the cracks start to open up, that's where I would start to go, okay, this may warrant some further investigation. Anything greater than an eighth of an inch, it's really, it's probably time to consult with an engineer or see, does the homeowner have records of an engineer checking this stuff out. Talking about the sump pump here. Sump pumps are, they're usually just little water pumps in a bucket in the ground, basically. They're going to catch water. That pump is going to turn on and it's going to shoot water away from the foundation. Ideally, it's going to send water somewhere. Hopefully, it's away from the foundation. But making sure that they actually work. This is another thing. Like they get installed in crawl spaces a lot of the times, which is great. The problem is they go in the crawl spaces and then you forget about it, and they don't get checked on for years at a time. And I think I see more broken sump pumps than I do functional ones. So testing a sump pump, just to make sure it's actually ejecting water. You can, with a hose or a pitcher, you can fill them up with water until they turn on. Or alternatively, there's actually it'll look like a little balloon in that basin. That's your float switch. And if you just pick up, just for half a second, pick it up and then drop it back down, the pump should turn on for just a couple of seconds and turn right back off. That's a quick, easy way to tell, is this thing actually functioning or not? And then, light bulbs, adjust paint, all that, those are little things that, it's frustrating for, I don't know, frustrating is maybe not the right word. It calls into question, the quality of the rest of the house. Now you guys are like, if you've been in a ton of houses, that some paint, chips and paint, like who cares? Like if you're asking me, the home inspector, like, no, I don't care if there's dents and dings and paints and chips in it. Like, no, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. But a buyer walking into a house that they're about to spend, a significant amount of money on, like those are the things that they go, well, did they take care of this house? Did they not? And like I said, if you saw my house, you'd never buy it, but I know it's a solid house. Like I know it's a good place to live. But yeah, so that's kind of wraps up, like I said, seller side things. I know we got into some of the buyer side stuff. We're right at the end of our hour. But I got all day. Do you have any questions, concern, anything that I can help you out with or that you'd like to know more about?
What areas do you serve?
We are in the triad and triangle. But we'll pretty much go anywhere. I would say, in the triad and triangle, we've got lots of availability and coverage. Outside of that, we'd like at least the chance to say no. But yeah, we'll do a lot of driving.
No charge a service fee for that driving. That's one really good thing.
Yeah, we go where the work is, and I mean, you guys know how that is. That's the nature of real estate.
What's the average cost?
Do you remember? I want to say it's with some additional services. So I would say like our average ticket price ends up being like $700. But that would be with a home inspection, radon, and termite inspection. That's sort of that's probably the most common. The home inspection itself, average, probably, $400 to $500, depending on a few factors, yeah.
And if y'all ever like need a quote from us or just like trying to see if you're like, oh, you can always text me too. or our office LB card within class. You can text, call, order online, email, whatever you prefer. And we can quote it before you have to go and fill out all the forms. Yep, price.
Yeah, great question. Any other questions? All right, well, yeah, you know how to get a hold of us. Like I said, Maycee can call us anytime. If you ever have, and this is a serious offer, and not many people take us up on it, but if you're ever showing a house and you see something and you're like, what the heck am I looking at, you know, or I need a quick answer on something, call or text us, you know, and reach out to Maycee. She can answer a lot of it, but she can reach out, you know, talk to our service team and, you know, we can take a look at pictures and stuff like that. And yeah.
With the flooding that just happened in Durham, Chapel Hill, I had one agent who's never even worked with us reach out to me. She's like, hey, my mom has a rental property. And she sent us pictures of the puddles in the front of her mom's rental property house. And she's like, do you think it's a sewer scoop? And we were all like, well, we don't really think that, but we were able to guide her towards like, you need a septic inspection, here's like who we use. And that was able, like, she was very proud of having an idea of where to go now.
Yeah.
We're here to help for sure.
So yeah, just another ace up your sleeve. If you need to impress your clients, you can do that. You don't even have to give us the credit. That's okay.
Like this. Okay.
Thank you for sure.
Yeah. Sweet, okay.